listening to the Soda Podcast, and this is the Data Dream Team series. Coming up on the next episode is Paco Nathan, the player coach affectionately known as the evil mad scientist. You'll hear how Paco has built data science teams as a hands-on leader and why he eschews titles. He'll also shine a light on how data helped his regiment in the US Army win a parade competition. He's amongst this industry's game changers. Here's a taster of the conversation between Jesse and Paco.
So Paco, have you ever seen a team that's stuck? By this I mean, there's a team, and if you look at their velocity, if you look at their burn down charts, they're doing basically the same thing that they said they were going to do a month ago, but that's carried on for this month and previous months.
Yeah, I think that those are hard calls, but my best advice in that kind of situation, what I've seen before, is if you can get in and measure progress in any way quantitatively, start to put in some deadlines. If we can't make a certain amount of progress by this point, we call it. Yeah, those are hard calls, but if you want to stay in business, you got to do it.
If you don't make concerted effort, concerted change, this will not right itself. It won't fix itself. It isn't a matter of time. The team is stuck, and you need to make a hard call. Sometimes teams start out thinking, if I have one qualified person, I could extrapolate that out to 10 beginners and get about the same effect. What do you think, Paco?
No, it just doesn't work. I mean, obviously there's a lot of need to have entry-level track and be mentoring people and bringing them in. But if the end result of leveraging data is that you're supporting decisions being made, say at executive level, there's a lot of risk to that. You want people who have more background, who can avoid some of the pitfalls and mistakes that could lead to, real disaster. I tend to prefer having smaller teams that are more expert, more generalist, more experienced, especially when there's a lot higher risk. If you have lower risk scenarios, you just need to crunch through lots of reporting, then you can probably stand to have a different composition, maybe more people who are early in their career.
Sometimes we deal with companies where they have taken somebody else's architecture. They went to a conference talk and there was some well-known tech company and they said, oh, they gave us this architecture diagram. That's what I want. Our person took a picture of it. Bust that out for me. I call that the holy grail. What do you think, Paco?
Yeah, exactly. There's this idea that people see a picture or they're riffing off of keywords that they've heard and they immediately want to adopt it. No, you really have to build from the use case. I see that in the graph space. It's like if you have an engineering team and you mention that you need to do some work on a graph problem, there's a given number of IT people who immediately start arguing about which graph database they need. You basically want to get them out of the room. Isolate what are the use cases, what do we need to do, how do we spec on this, and show some proof of concept long before you make any technology selection. I think it's kind of fundamental. A lot of people in IT really love to work with whatever the new toys are and key off the latest buzzword, but it just doesn't work in practice.
If you ask a question and it's pretty vague about what's the best graph database or what graph database should I use, and they immediately tell you a technology, guess what? You're on a heuristic at that point. They have told you their favorite one. They have not told you the right one. You can know the mark of a good data engineer or data scientist or IT person for whatever. If you say, what's that graph database? And they start to ask you those questions and they start to give you the pushback. That's really the key that we need to be looking for in order to say, hey, we're not just adopting some kind of holy grail.
When you're building exams, the hard part are the decoy questions, like the wrong answers in a multiple choice. Coming up with good questions that have good wrong answers is very difficult. In practice, if we can take the industry press releases and just sort of regurgitate what's coming out of the press releases, the claims that are clearly FUD, if we take those and use those as decoys, we could really catch the people who were just, like I say, regurgitating what they'd heard. They didn't have any hands-on. They weren't tying it to a use case or any kind of analysis. So yeah, beware of the FUD.
Sometimes when I'm talking to an executive, they say, our data science models just keep on failing in production. What's happening? What would you talk to them about?
I think there's a perception that the models are failing. I would definitely bring in more of the stakeholders. Get the ops team involved, get the data engineering team involved, the data science team involved, but also back up to the stakeholders. I will quote John Thomas from IBM, one of my co-authors. Really, if you want to operationalize these kinds of applications, you need to bring in more people and help them to trust each other. Help the ops team to understand enough of what the data science team is facing that they can recognize that, okay, those people are doing their job. And vice versa. Make sure the data science team understands the ops challenges so they recognize, okay, I see how those people are struggling with certain issues that are really important and they're doing their job. And so when you can build that kind of trust cross-team, then you knock down a lot of the specious arguments about, well, this model isn't working. And until you do, there's just going to be a lot of mythos.
And I think building up that trust starts with education. If the ops team doesn't understand either the data format, what the data science team is trying to do, even the way that they're making that call, are they using a REST call? Are they using some kind of gRPC? It's all the way down to that level. This is what we need to do with the ops team, and it's different than what we've dealt with in software for quite some time. What we're hitting is an issue of people are still going back to that, this is the way we always did it, instead of realizing, oh, this is substantially different.
I believe in the cross-training. I really like the example that at, say, Nike, their data team, I've been involved with them some, and they had their data engineering team go through data science boot camp and vice versa. One of the experiences that I had, I was working at a company that was very early in continuous deployment. They had a very sophisticated deployment environment, and I was introducing a data insights practice. As an engineering director leading a data engineering team, one of the requirements for me was I had to qualify to be in the ops pit. I mean, at director level, I had to go back and become entry-level trainee in ops, qualified to wear a beeper and troubleshoot, firefight when there were P1s that came up with, critical outages. And until you got that perspective and had that credential, you really weren't qualified to be working in a continuous deployment environment with, deploying models. Maybe it's extreme. I really enjoyed it. And I would recommend it to anybody who wants to get into a data team leader role, is really get some serious hands-on in ops.
You almost can't wait, right? So here's what you need to do. Please tap follow and just add Soda. And that way, you won't miss out. You'll be the first to know about new episodes from Soda as soon as they drop. We're so excited, so follow and listen for free. Remember to check dreamteam.soda.io for additional resources. We'll meet you back here soon at Soda Podcast.